Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, we're going to be diving into the multiplayer maps that are available for the game at launch. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well, and if you happen to be buying this game, or any game on the Xbox Store, the affiliate link in the video description is the way to go. So this map is the Bagra Fortress. This is the first map. We're doing this alphabetically. You can jump to any of them with the timestamps in the video. So this level is a smaller one. It's kind of got three main areas. This courtyard, typically for spawning, this middle lane area, and then I would say basically the outside surrounding this building. There's some action in there if you're doing objectives, but most of it seems to move around the outside, and this is again another spawn area. But typically you find some spawn camping goes on around over that area. So let's move around here. So this first spot, we have a couple different options. We're going to be going over kind of tactics, just kind of giving you a feel and a layout of the different maps, and hopefully a pretty concise way. So this is a area where you can view it from multiple different angles. You can see the stairs, you get two different areas there for people coming in, but you can have people shooting down from you in the second level. You can use elevation points here because there are actually a couple using the scaffolding and whatnot. And there's a door that enters the building right down below. So now we can go over here. We can climb up a bit if we'd like to. You don't get like a crazy vantage point, right? You're not like, I don't know, jumping up all crazily, but you do get a little bit of a vantage point that you could take advantage of, right? But yeah, then you've got like this neat little area here with a little bit of cover around the outsides, and then more additional areas where you once again go into there to go into the main building, or up there to get into that spot of the building. And a little tiny cutoff here, you might find someone hiding in. I've already had a few in there. And then we just get some little bits of cover throughout this area. Another entrance point, a second level to get shot down from. And then when you come over here, another little peek away entrance. There's typically an objective that's kind of hidden in this corner, but this is the central part of the map. This is where the conflict happens down the middle. And you're going to have a lot of different places from which people are going to be shooting down from. Either from this long line of sight, because again, you get like a long vantage point. If you go up there, you can shoot straight down here with a sniper rifle. Second level there, a couple of shooting spots. That's an outdoor area that's vulnerable, but people shoot down from you from there. And then some little nooks and crannies that you can hide from, and you know, you might be able to see someone for an objective hide inside the truck, which is actually something I've seen, which is interesting. But yeah, they do give you a lot of cover. So here, you can either kind of jump up this way. You want to sneak up in here, or you can go in through this door. You'll see this is just like a small little room. We'll come back to this. And then this area is kind of like one of those sort of look around entrances. It's a good block off point, but yeah, like I was saying, this part of the map here is where a lot of the spawning kind of happens for teams, I've noticed. And it's pretty open. Like you get like a huge open vantage point. Like there's little bits of cover. That area leads to that little building there on the side. And then it's kind of like an open courtyard with, again, little miscellaneous bits of cover that you can use along the outside, and it's very much just kind of open here, a little just open spot. So let's continue going around, and then we'll go through the buildings on the inside of them. So this area here, again, coming to that middle lane, but through like the top portion, you get like a little spot here that actually provides a little bit of cover, as you got like the blacksmith there and some little hidey spots on the side too. And then the vulnerabilities are the top area there again, and then the different windows that are available that people can shoot down at you from, and then that enters that building there. And then you've got this open area, long line of sight, usually an objective all the way down there like I mentioned. But yeah, usually you'll be moving quickly, and like I said, it's a smaller level, so it's not like you're going really, you know, into anywhere too intensive from here. And then you can see the spawn from this spot. It's just an elevated gallows here that you can enjoy. You can't sneak under, sadly, so you're not going to have a little hiding spot, but just slight elevation on the gallows. And then the two different doors here that are completely like, you know, cut off and side segmented. It's actually a neat little aesthetic map just in terms of like little tour stuff. Then we enter this building, and it's tight. You'll find an objective maybe down in the middle sometimes. This is where you view the spawn spot from, little tiny window viewing. You get some viewage vantage points here. That's that door entrance I was mentioning earlier. And then over here is just where you entered down, you know, basically these staircases to go either way. Pretty much a very straightforward area. This is the opening plot spot here, so a little vantage point you might get a few people from. And then, again, kind of just like a small little room, and then this is where you're going to see that line of sight of people spawning and coming down through there, or maybe being in the middle. Not great for viewing all the way down there on the left, but, you know, if you do the right angle, you might get like a little line of sight there. And then we move here, and you can see this is where we entered. So you can go up here instead, and you just get this small little room with a vantage window to shoot outwards with, but, you know, not a great line of sight. So again, that's another area you can use to jump into the middle, or you can come down here, or you can enter with that door. And yeah, just kind of a tiny little room. And then up here is a similar situation where this leads into the spawn. It's just like a slightly elevated area you have. And then this room is very small too, leading into a very vulnerable area out here because you're just basically somewhere like people can pick you off from multiple different angles. Anyways, that's the first map. I think that about covers it. Let's dive into the next one. So this is the Breenbergh Hotel. This actually is my favorite level in the game. It has one spawn area here, one spawn area out there, and then sort of three central lane areas, a restaurant, an open kind of concierge type area, and then a nice little lounge in the middle of it. So let's dive in here to this level. Again, that is the restaurant way, that is the main entrance way down to the middle like lobby, and then over here is a quick little side area that's going to be to like a bit of a concierge area. So we get a spa. This is just kind of what motivated me to actually want to go and do a spa day, because it's really quite tranquil. Anyways, we've got this long lobby that's going to lead into that center middle area that we were talking about. And this is that concierge area I was kind of mentioning, you know, a little welcome desk and whatnot. So you'll have people shooting down from that room, you'll have people shooting down from up there, and people rushing down the middle. There's also like a little spot here where you might get, if you're playing something like Search, people rushing down here, throwing grenades into that spot. This area is very open, but it does allow some little good spots where you can mount and shoot at people from that distance. I see a lot of people use this table here. This is another little entrance area into the middle, but we'll come back around to that. And then I see a lot of people use this area here as a vantage point because it gives you both lines of sight. Yeah, so you can hide. I see a lot of people hiding behind those desks. Not a great spot, but it, you know, lets you have a little bit of cover. And then when we come here, you go up the, you know, basically the staircase, or you can go in the back here, just a long hallway, you know, long line of sight. And then when you come back here, it's just kind of like an open area, but people can jump down through the glass on the second level. Or they'll come in here, which is another room that I don't see a lot of people use, but I could see conflicts down the road maybe happening here, because there's a good little bit of cover that you can sort of, you know, cut off angles and whatnot. Here you can use the ladder to get to the second level, or you can rush down here and meet people that are coming up there that we just showed off. So let's just go up here now. This is where we will meet the staircase we were showing off earlier, and also have that connection to the back area where the glass that you can jump down from is. Pretty cool. Here we have the one room that you can use. We were shooting at it earlier. Just a little bit of a vantage point, seeing how you can kind of look down. And you can see people over there too if you're looking careful enough. But this is a very vulnerable room. Typically you die if you spend too long there. This way will lead you out to like a bit of a catwalk where you can look over the, you know, overall main lobby kind of area that I was talking about, the little lounge spot, which is pretty cool. Lots of good vantage points here. You can shoot people coming down from there, people coming from there, people coming from the middle. You can also be a little bit more covered here and see people come this way, and see some people maybe hide right there, chuck a grenade over in that spot. It'll be a good little place to take people out. And you can also see people coming this way. So the catwalk's good for fast movement, but it leaves you very vulnerable because you can get shot from down there, you can get shot from over here. So yeah, that's a place people will come from. They spawn over there, and they come from down from that spot too. And then that door will lead you down to the restaurant. We're not going there quite yet. So let's go to the back. And this is that open area where you can use this as a vantage point in order to protect, because typically objectives are in that building. You might get like a hostage down here or something like that. And you can see how you could just jump down, or maybe you can like watch people coming in from the different spots. But yeah, this one's very open. This is just the good elevated post for, you know, kind of taking people out. Staircase, we already showed this off. It was a spawn area, so you won't find too many people back here, but you know, it's kind of like a good little hang-off ledge area that I've noticed that you could maybe take advantage of and catch some people like not paying attention. And there's some good little corners here that you could use for cover. But this is very open. Vehicles that, like, you know, can blow up and stuff. It's kind of a dangerous spot. Again, using that technique, you can kind of sit on the ledge here. I don't know how good a pistol is going to be for a distance, but you might be able to surprise someone or something. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of thing. So this area is open, very vulnerable little spot, but usually it's just a starting area, and then you come up here. So this is your entranceway into the kitchen, or you can also come through the back here, and that will be another entranceway into the kitchen, but just a little slight elevated spot so that you can see people coming from there, and also being in the middle. So not a bad little area. And you might, you know, hang off that little van there, shoot somebody or something. So the kitchen, lots of cover, lots of destructible things that go flying. This way will lead you to where the catwalk is, right there. That's the elevated catwalk, and tight little corners. Lots of cover here, not a whole lot of like lines of sight, but pretty congested and pretty tight. Lots of corners for you to kind of like sneak around. And then just layers of seats here that people use for cover as they fight and try to move through this area. Very, very vulnerable location. And then coming here, you get a little bit of a line of sight there, but this area just leads you either to the middle kind of lobby place here. See, that's the connecting route, or it'll lead you to the back area there. But we're just going to quickly show here that this is a slightly elevated place, a line of sight here. You can see people coming down the middle. Lots of people like to go into the spot right off the bat. And then a connection back to the kitchen and back to the restaurant for that little corridor. I just wanted to show how that all connects. So these areas aren't really used. You'll see some people travel through here. Again, that was the spawn point on the far right that we could go through. And we'll show that off on the map here. You can see that we're on this side. We basically went all the way around and we're back this way. This is another area. Don't see people use this at all, but, you know, could give you a little bit of line of sight there. Let you see into the spawn a little bit. Not a very good place. It's more like a run-through connector. Nothing there going on. That's just the spawn. And now we have the middle kind of lobby setup thing where you enter right from the spawn. And then you could be like, okay, I'm going that way towards the open kind of concierge area. This way to the middle lobby, or over that way to go over towards where the restaurant is. I see objectives around here, and people love using this desk as cover because it covers you all around. Put like a mine or something here. Pretty well protected. And then this is just that kind of open area down the middle where, again, you got, you know, an elevated place that you could shoot people from. But you're very, very vulnerable and open there. I have noticed that if you kind of come over here and you sort of crouch, it's not the best, but sometimes people don't notice you. But yeah, that about sums this map up. Pretty straightforward in what it provides, but a neat layout. This is the Crown Raceway. I actually quite like this level, and it's very straightforward. We've got an outer lane that kind of goes around both sides with a couple buildings here or there, and then one central interior building. Lots of cover, lots of tight spaces, but also lots of good long lines of sight. So again, we're going to just be starting from here. We're going to go down and come around and go down the middle. So, like I mentioned, lots of little side spots that you can use for cover, but most of them force you to still continuously be out in the open. And then you'll see tons of vulnerable spots in the central areas as well, where crossfires are going to happen constantly. Glass, you know, you can shoot through all of it and whatnot. Just tight spots. Couple doors here or there that you can use. Little bits of vantage. Not really an area where you're going to be able to, you know, command a spot. You're going to have to be moving around on this one in order to really handle things and be effective within these spaces, because again, it creates a bunch of tiny little rooms, very minimal kind of window spots that give you any kind of real elevation on your enemies. It's mostly just running close quarters combat, like literally the whole way through. Like that's literally what this is, but you know, every now and then you get a spot where you can kind of see while, like, you know, down like a hallway, but you know, you're still gonna be vulnerable from down there or down the middle. So it's not really a level that you can camp too effectively with unless you're doing corners and people are constantly running towards you. It's just kind of fast movement from one area to the next. This here is where you could see a little bit of a window connection room. What? That's so cool. No, anyways. Yeah, so then you go down here and then you see another, again, very, very open spot. Not a whole lot, like lots of cover, but not a lot of spots that you could really be like, this is a good spot to like hold up. But you know, little hidden areas that you might find helpful for moving to different spots. Like this is just going to take you here and, you know, very, very closed off areas. But yeah, and then there's the cool little, you can see occasionally the cars like racing by, which is a really neat effect. And it's very open. Like this area here is going to be like an opposite type spawn type spot, you know, just like we spawned over here. And then we're going to be rushing down this far thing, but I do want to show, okay, they went by, they go really quick, that you can enter the middle area from numerous different, like, you know, doors and whatnot, but you'll see more of that when we come through the other way. And then we've got just this long kind of road line of sight, more vantage points into the middle, but you kind of have to like you know, basically crouch to get through some areas. So you might be seeing people slide and whatnot to get between there, because you can't just like fast move through it, if that makes sense otherwise. Which I think actually leaves you pretty vulnerable when you're getting shot at. The middle open lane, and then it abruptly ends right over here when we're at the top. So let's move down the middle now, which is again another collection of rooms that are connected by various doors and or open areas. So it basically forces you to move through a bunch of smaller little spaces in order to, you know, get to other parts of the map, which is kind of cool. I really like this level. It's very, very different. This is more of a closed-off corridor, but you do get like a look in there. You can see over on that side, you get a looking point too, which is kind of neat. So you can crossfire at each other. That's what I was talking about with the door slide-ins. More corners you can kind of hide in, but then, you know, you're basically right back outside again. So it's pretty, like, it's decently large, but it's pretty tight. And, you know, you move and connect with each other very, very quickly. That's the door we were just showing off over in the other spawn. And then this is just going to lead you back to that initial area where the cars are. So not really a whole lot that you can take advantage of in this one, but it's going to be corner to corner, making those moves. We can't even really like jump up there, and it's very, very straightforward, and that's really all this map is, but it is a neat one, at least I think so. Quite a different sort of design for a level, and it just kind of really works for me. This is El Asilo. So this map is very, very open around the outside, and then lots of tight spaces in the middle. But the middle of the map is also very, very open in its building design. So we're starting here, we're going to go around the outside, and then we're going to go through the middle. So basically just open spaces. You get a small building here that you might find an objective in, with a couple windows and a couple doors that you can go through. That's it. Like, it just leaves you incredibly vulnerable. There's lots of vantage points from the building that you can shoot down at people that are out in the open. Believe it or not, you cannot climb out here, you'll get a warning, so don't go that way. You might find the hill up here to be a good little vantage point, and some objectives might spawn up here, and then that's a good connector area over there to get shot at, or shoot to, I guess you would say. But yeah, lots of just open movement here. You're going to get shot at quite a bit unless you get to that middle segment, which is basically your saving grace on this, because if you're around on the outside here, there's not a whole lot that you can do. You get a couple little corners here or there. You might find that these rocks are helpful, because you'll get an objective like spawn here and there. The rocks might give you a little bit of a, you know, an advantage when people are rushing in. And then this building kind of mirrors the other one on the other side, but it's even tighter. You know, it's an even smaller little building. Not a whole lot going on in here, except for all of the intense death going on. Yeah, and then we've got this building right here. So this is the first little fortress type building here. And this one is a little bit different. So you go around the outside, you know, you get some little tiny open long lanes you can use. But this one is a bit bigger, but still very, very tight in its presentation. You know, it's not giving you necessarily a whole lot of freedom to move within it to get to the higher levels. You actually have to go back outside in order to get up here, and then it's just like a small room with a little bit of a line of sight, but you see people spawning up there taking advantage of that hill. You're just not getting any good vantage points really into the building from this at all. And then completely open corridor or courtyard here with the soccer net. So that's not the best for movement. And then this area, once again, quite open. And then we move around the outside here. We can see we're at the top. And this part's a little awkward because, well, let's go through the small building first. So just small garage, nothing really exciting here, but they usually plop down an objective in that space. So yeah, not the best of areas, but you do get a little bit of a roof that you can jump on, so you might take advantage of that for sniping. This area is really weird because it's like, it's kind of rocky, but it's just sort of open. I don't really see a lot of people here in the spawn unless they're spawning. It's just kind of like almost really out of the way. And yes, you can kind of like basically climb up into the middle. Yeah, this is the spawn area where we started at, and then, you know, you can just come up here for a nice little beer if you'd like to have one, I guess. Sit down, think about life and all that. But, you know, you can see far. You might have a sniper or two posted up here, so keep an eye out for that. But it's not really giving you much unless you're attacking people that are, like, out there grabbing an objective. So let's conquer the middle area. So this one has tons of lanes that are, sorry, that's the wrong thing. Tons of lanes that are going on. So you can enter through the sides. You can enter through the main area. You can enter through the sides here. You can enter through the back, down the middle. So let's go up to the second level first, and we're going to do that just with the staircase here. So you can enter the building there. You can enter the building right there. There's a lot of little entrances and doors. You can come to the second level up this way through the roof. You can use the roof as a vantage point like we showed off from those other areas. Then you can use that staircase to get up. Again, small rooms, lots of staircases, lots of winding angles, lots of hidden surprises. Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. That kind of almost, I'd call it a catwalk outside area that I was talking about when we were up there, and the courtyard down below you can get up through. It's so this is the middle. This is all it is. It's just an open area. You know, you might think you might be able to get some different like side views and stuff. No, that's it. That's really all it is. So it's kind of like there's space, but you're very much focused to go into certain particular rooms, and it's not like you're getting like windows everywhere that you can use. You only get the odd window to like look down at enemies crossing different areas from. So this one also requires you to move around a bit, and again, you just see the other side, so it's not like there's a bunch of really good hidden spots. The bar right there, good little hiding spot actually. And then you're right back here to this, you know, spawn point over there. And that's all, and then the staircase down here. So it's kind of almost basically symmetrical in what this provides. And then this would be where the spawn is, with the little tiny shack room over here. I guess we should quickly show off. There's just nothing really to that one, right? So most of the conflict kind of comes from people shooting out at people that are hiding on the outsides or people that are fighting within this area. I've seen this being used as a good little spot for cover, and then you just move to the central area, and there's multiple, that's the entranceway to this side of the map. So if you were coming in from down there, you would go in this way or you go in that way. And then this is the one room, there's usually an objective in here. People hide behind the couch, people hide behind this stuff, and that's all this map is. You get shot down from people up there. And yeah, no, that's kind of all there is to it. Just, again, this like side entrance, that side entrance we looked at earlier, and then the small little room here that people kind of go through to get to the main area. And that's the spawn where we started from. So kind of a pretty straightforward level. So this is Embassy. This is another kind of small tight map where you've got the outer lane that's connected by the middle T section, and then two buildings down here, and then one central building here where a lot of the action goes on. So let's start by moving around the left-hand side, so you can enter the embassy from there, or you can move around. Very open, very, very open, so you'll be vulnerable, but I don't think you'll have too many people trying to like pick you off while you're going along here. Another entrance point that will take you to the middle T section of the level, and that is also where a lot of conflict happens, is people facing off down the middle there. Then we have, you know, more entrance ways you can go through, and you might find people kind of sneaking up on ledges and whatnot, because this is an open area where you can get up on a semi-roof. There's a ladder right there for entry too. You can see more of the outside area here, and this is a spot where you can enter to that building right there. Or you can look down into the middle T section from this particular spot. See, we were coming around that way, and you can get a good line of sight of people there, or you might find that there's an objective on this spot here that people will be hanging out and battling over for. Again, just kind of open outside areas, a nice little tennis court, lots of destruction going on, and that would be the spawn area. So alternatively, we could have came right down there using little bits of cover if we wanted to. This is a good spot because it lets you see people that are at various windows that you might want to shoot at, command that spot, or command people coming down there. That's a door entrance to get right up here, because there's basically just a staircase. So let's enter this building and take a look at things. Like I said, literally just a straight up staircase, and then a tight little corridor that you go through, takes you back to the T, and then you can enter this building, which is also very, very small and tight. This will take you back to this little room, which is where the spawn area is, right back there. So pretty straightforward, and then you can use the staircase to get up to where we were just moments ago on the balcony ledge. Crazy, I know, right? What a spot. So this one's a lot of close quarters between room to room as you battle for the control of the particular map, and this is just like a quick little hallway, and that leads you out to the middle. So people always try to go here. I just shoot at them from up there, and they never notice because it'll be like trying to look down this way and stuff. Very vulnerable spot. That is a doorway in. That's a window into another room. And this is just the T section. You can climb up here if you want to, but yeah, you're going to die if you spend too much time in this spot. Maybe you can like corner hug here and kind of watch people there, watch people there. I actually use this spot a bit. So you can either rush through here, hallway, or sneaky, you can get here through the bathroom, because for some reason there's a window that shows right into where the bathroom is. It's kind of weird like that. Anyways, hallways, that'll lead you to one room. We'll show that off in a bit. And then here, there's another hallway, which again will lead you to that room, but there is this little kind of side area here where you can find people hiding. You know, it's a nice little spot that you can kind of get in and people don't really notice you too much. Cool. This is that one doorway that we showed off earlier. So you come to that part of the map. Let's take the staircase up. And this is where actually quite a bit of conflict happens. So there's nowhere to go there. There's just this one hallway. You can go in, you can use this room here and shoot down from the different windows, long line of sight. See how people are very vulnerable when they're down there. And just like a little cutout. And then you come to the central kind of boardroom area where, once again, you could shoot at people that were up in that objective, shoot people that are hiding there. See, I pointed this out earlier. Or you can come over here and you can shoot out into the open kind of courtyard spot. Here you will find a tight staircase down. And then here you are going to find just like a small little extra room that you can jump out in and shoot at people that are maybe down here, right? So pretty straightforward. Let's enter through this one original door that we showed off the bat. And this is a room of a lot of conflict. This is where that one hallway is. This is where the second hallway is. So very, very kind of small, tight in design, but lots of combat goes through here. And that's the staircase we were just showing moments ago. And then we end up on the outside, and that is about what you get out of the embassy level. This is Farm 18, which is a very, very small, tight map. The main portion of here is the walkway down the center, where there is one primary building and then a bunch of secondary buildings that are on the outside or outskirts of the level. So this is one of the spawns here, another spawn is over here, and basically the conflict mostly happens here with some conflict in these little rooms here and on the outside. But let's get going. We've got this long lane. There actually is a lot of back area stuff here that people can hide in, but really rarely is this area used at all. So a neat spot right away that you can take advantage of is climbing up here. It allows you to kind of get a little line of sight on that door. It allows you to climb over, enter that building, climb up and get on top of the roof from multiple different ways. And you can also jump up here where you could see people that actually go up on that spot. They might be in that room. You can get people in this door. You can see people down there. This is a very commanding line of sight within the map. And then there's like little coverage areas here. People love to camp in this little corners. People run by and whatnot. Let's move over here. You'll typically find like a hostage and or objective within this room area. People camp on both sides. Pretty open little space, but lots of little cover poles that you can use in order to get angles. This is another spot people camp in the corners. There's a lower spot here that people can kind of hide. Tight corners, quick conflict on this map. Then you can enter through here or you can go through the basement. So we're going to start with the basement here. This area doesn't see a whole lot of people go through it, which is nice, and it could be really good for a quick flank route if you want to jump through and go this way, which is fantastic. But yeah, you get the one staircase in the middle here that goes up to the second level, and then this one that goes into this back area where one of the spawns is connected. This is a very open area. Not much goes on in this spot other than spawning. You know, you can get up there really easily. We'll show that off in a sec. But a really good spot is using this ladder to get up to this particular vantage point. And then again, you can see it mirrored where we were over there last time, where you get to see the whole map. But this side I feel is a little bit more covered, so you don't get as much of a vantage point. And it's a little bit more dangerous, but you do see a lot of people running down the middle here. So this area here, you can either go down there to that level, or you can kind of just jump up, and you can literally do it from like right here. You can jump in and you can get up here. Actually kind of occasionally use this as a spot where you can just stand up here and shoot at people coming from different places. They don't typically notice you, which is great. But yeah, now the second level is a bunch of different rooms, very, very open walls, so you get shot at pretty easily, but you can also get the jump on people because they might not notice you. And then this just kind of continues to this room here. But this is dangerous because literally they can climb through the window, open the door, and come right up to where you are if you are using this as a little camping spot. not the best of areas, and it's not very safe. This is the connecting hallway. You can see the staircase that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So yeah, that's kind of the scope of this one. Little side room here. That's the exit. We'll come back around. We're gonna do a circle here. So yeah, this is what I was talking about, where you just climb right in here, go up there, and then that's a conflict issue. It could still just come at you really fast, and then small little rooms that are kind of connected barely through little broken up kind of hallways and whatnot. Very, very open. So now we're going to move around the outside. So we're going over here to this building. We started over here. We kind of moved around. This one is another area that doesn't get a lot of attention, but I noticed that people are spawning, like, you spawn right here. And then, I typically, instead of running around that way, I go through here into this building. And then you can come up here and you get a great line of sight of the other team running straight towards you, so you can get your shots off and stuff. It's actually a nice little area. But other than that, you might find an objective or two in this one, but although this building isn't really utilized a whole lot. And then we move into this building here, which is in the corner of the map. This one I always find to also be another unutilized area, but good little camping spot if you're trying to hold up. They come through that door, and you come from the staircase from this one, or from this back room over here, which is a little bit small. And then you can see the back alley area, and a connection onto the roof, and a connection to that little middle spot, so we can climb up on the roof here this way. You could see that the staircase is right here in this small little room. If somebody's trying to capture the objective, like say a hostage, you could shoot at them because the objective spot will be right here. But other than that, this area doesn't really, I haven't seen too many people utilize this spot of the map a whole lot. So we're continuing moving on the outside, because again, that's all that is. And this is like a tight area here. You can find sometimes people spawn back here, or they use this as like a little bit of a hiding spot, because typically people just run through the middle and they don't care about that little spot here. So take advantage of that. But this is very tight corner combat. And then you come out here and you might find an objective like inside this and stuff. So it's actually pretty good if you... Sorry, I'm trying to do the thing where you climb off the side. But there we go. So you can kind of use that as a... I don't have a pistol right now, but you could shoot at people that are up there and you'll be a little bit more hidden. But climbing this box, climbing this, and then jumping on the roof here is actually a pretty good strategy. But yeah, we kind of get back to where we first started. And like I said, you don't really see people ever go through that building or go through this area. It's very, very quiet. Here's your ladder if you want to just get up to this level pretty easily. But there's many, many entrance places to get onto this roof. Like I said, jumping from there, jumping from there, jumping from over there. You can look here into the building from the different sky spots. Or a lot of people just like to use this as a good vantage point. You're not really seeing people in there, but you can chuck grenades pretty easily to get in there and, kill some people. Or watch people coming from over there. And that's a good little camping spot right there. And there is a door entrance right below us. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those vantage points people love. You get a good line of sight there. You can see people running out the doors. Just a couple very open rooms. Door entrance, open door entrance. I think they usually throw a hostage or an objective in this area, but very, very kind of tight spot. And now we kind of move through our middle lane. So this one, we've got a bunch of different entryways into the central building, but this is where a lot of the conflict happens, is in this spot. See, feeding out from like the spawn area over there, another entranceway into the middle building, this long line of sight. Typically, you see people camp in this spot. You see people use this as a little area here to shoot this way or shoot people up there. The bus is a lot of cover. I find that this side typically is more defensive and the other side is more offensive, because they get the advantage of like, this is like a pretty good corner camp. They might sit here and rush to this and use this. I've used this spot a lot. They might jump into the bus and use the bus as a little bit of cover. You're very vulnerable in the bus, but it allows you to get a little temporary bit of cover. And I've seen some people kind of go back on this one, and maybe even on this side here, seeing just lots of good vantage. Well, I don't know if vantage points is the right word, but lots of little cover spots. A lot of people camp in this area around this corner. And yeah, then we come around to the outside here, and this is about the scope of it. So let's move to the interior of the building. So again, spawn right over there, so you'd rush down the middle there. That's where a lot of conflict happens. So this building, pretty good, pretty easy to understand. Hallway here, there's a hallway on the other side, and there's a bunch of like little buildings that kind of connect things. So this is one of those little rooms, and then you can see the other main hallway this way, and you can see the one little connection point here to this spot. Should be familiar. And then we rush over this way, and you'll see that we don't really have anything else. A little connector hallway back to this original hallway. Very, very tight. You got this room, a lot of conflict here, a lot of little corner camps. And then finally we have this other small room that people usually just run and connect through. That's the, it's the printer fax machine room. That's what it's all about. And that concludes this particular map, the farm. This is Mercado Las Almas. So this is another kind of big long lane map with side areas that you go through. So actually typically I find that spawns are like over there and over there. So and then they meet down the middle depending on the game type you're playing. So let's actually go and let's start from the spawn area on this side over here, because I think that's the most effective way. So this area, open, big, there are little spots that you can hide behind if you find yourself being pressured back here, but typically people don't use that. The big rush here is to climb, and then shoot straight down this long line of sight that is the central focus of combat for the game typically. People hide behind that thing all the way over there. It's a good little spot. So here we have basically 3 different kind of lane options. You can go down the left side, down the middle, or down the right side. We're going to start by going to, well, the right side. So the right side, you can go through the back, or you can kind of jump up there, you can sneak in, but that connects down to the middle. And then there's also this little left spot right there. But we'll come back around to this stuff. So here, tight, quick, kind of little alley, and then you'll have people that shoot down from you from up there, and you'll see people come straight down the middle, and you have this little connector that goes into this little tunnel that will lead you back into the central area of the map, which you can use to cross over to the other side or fight down the middle more further. So let's go back around. Here is a good little spot that you can actually kind of camp and use, and you can also use this to climb up to get a little elevated post. Keep in mind somebody can be up there, or they can be through the various windows shooting at you. Great. So now we've got this little open courtyard, very vulnerable, and that is the middle central tunnel, which is an area of a lot of conflict on this one. And then we got a bunch of little door entrances. So this will take you up to the second level, or you can fight through this area. Sometimes people are behind the bar shooting. You got a window vantage point here. You can see down that alleyway we came from. Or you can come around here, small little elevation, and it'll take you to this back little alley spot. And again, here is where our little middle tunnel is. But let's go through this building so you can see the second level of it. Staircase right here. And that will lead you to this tight area, but you do get little vantage windows that you can use to see people coming in from different angles, which is kind of clever and interesting. And that's all this room is. Typically there's an objective up here. Then we got this quick staircase from this back alley area up here to the top, and you can see people in the tunnel there, or climb up and get a little bit of a vantage point, but you can't really fully take advantage of this because you can't like sort of post yourself up against the wall. Let's go down here. Very open, very empty. This is a tight little corner area you can go through to enter like the spawn spot. Yeah, and then that'll lead you to this space, but we're going to wrap back around. I just wanted to show the connection way there. So tight alleyway, long line of sight, but you can typically get people that are kind of sitting back there shooting. This area filled with cars that typically explode and will blow you up, which is not the best. But yeah, this is the other spawn I was talking about that I notice people usually have. There is a few different ways that you can use this. You can kind of hide in that corner over there. I find that helpful. A lot of people rush here to the middle. This is the area that we were shooting at from all the way over there at the beginning of the match. I also find that you can kind of brace yourself against this area as you see people run into the middle. Some people run into this little spot here and use this as a covey. You got this little area here that you can shoot at people from. Here's the connecting tunnel that we showed off earlier. And here is another little spot that people like to use as a little bit of a hidey area. Going the other way is this little outcropping. But you do get lots of little cover. This area is deadly. This side here doesn't give you anything. That side gives you a little, just a little bit. So over here we've got kind of the fun little taco stand thing that people climb up and use as a vantage point for sniping. But you're very, very vulnerable up here, even lying down. Very open area. Sometimes there's an objective there. I have noticed that you can use this as like a little climb up wall, and you're actually pretty well hidden in comparison to other places that you can climb up. So this is actually a good little sneaky spot if you're good at using like just the pistol. So this way, 2 options: straight down the tunnel or down this little side tiny room, but both move into the same little spot here. This is a little tiny viewing point. You can get people that are coming in this way, or also get people that are coming in that way. And again, that just leads back into the spawn area, camping corner there, depending on how you want to go at it. So this area, pretty open. You can either go through this small little kind of shipping room where stuff's being held, or you could just walk right through the door. There is this little spot here that can help you this way, give you a little bit of an advantage over people that are coming. You could kind of just, I don't want to be climbing there, you can kind of just see people down that hallway, barely. So little line of sight there. Open courtyard area here. That'll lead you out into the middle section there, and as you can tell on the map, we're almost completed our journey through. Let's take a look at this warehouse. Very open, not an area. I find this whole side of the map not too many people use. It's typically just this side. If there were heat maps, you'd see that most of the conflict happens there. This allows you to see into this spawn here. This is a good window for that. And this allows you to watch people coming from that central area with the tunnel and stuff being over that way. So this spot here, very, very open, typically just a running lane people use to get run to other spots, but I do see people camp out in this area to see things. And I also find people kind of like climb up on here to get a little bit of a viewing angle, a little bit of a, slightly elevated position. We'll just show that this goes into the middle, it goes back to that tunnel, there's the middle tunnel, and yeah, that's kind of it. And then we move down here. This is where you could do that little offshoot thing I mentioned earlier on. You can see that this is the beginning kind of little spawn area that you would move out of. And then back around here, you've just got the one door into the warehouse, and you've got a small little kind of like tunnel area or alleyway. And that's really the gist of this one. This is the Santa Sena border crossing. This is the only map in the game I don't like. It is a nightmare to play. It's not the best, but yeah. It's just one long, narrow, explosive, truck-filled explosion fest. So spawn over here, and let's try to dive into this. So the back area consists of actual buildings on both sides. You don't see a lot of conflict going on here at all, unless you're playing something like Headquarters, where things get moved. But these buildings, if you are looking to camp, they are filled with nooks and crannies and little areas that you can kind of like hide, corners, cover points. There's a lot going on within these buildings. Nothing like crazily strategic, but there are so many different spots that you could post up in and use. You're just not going to see a lot of the flow of the map, in my experience, go through these areas unless you're using them as a spawn, or like I said, Headquarters that kind of forces you around the map into different areas. Then we've got this open, again, central spawn area that we showed. Let's just quickly run over here. So like I said, everything here just explodes. There are so many cars, and they all just go kaboom constantly because they're just getting grenaded. So you just small little room that you would run through. A lot of this is just like spawn areas, and then there's like this side little tight area, just like a quick little building here. Like it's almost really pointless, a lot of this stuff. Alright, so we're gonna kind of run down the middle and show this off. Actually, you know what? Let's cut off this building here quickly. Let's go back and do that one. It's just like there's not a whole lot to this map. Like there's buildings, there's density, but it's pretty tight. Okay, you know what? We'll come back around. So this is the outskirts of the level. So this one right here, this is like a narrow little line that you can use as, I guess, a flanking route. There's less cars here, there's more cover. Then there's this little tight corner. Just this little, I don't know if corner is the right word, but this little straight line that gives you a little bit of cover, not a whole lot. That goes just straight down all the way through. So it's kind of like, think of them as little highway lanes that you can use. You get tiny bits of cover, but you're so open when you're running through here, and it just connects right into the cluster of cars and vehicles that is in the middle. But here you get lots of different like little trucks you can go through. You can go into the back of that truck. There might be a hostage in there as well if you're playing that mode. But yeah, you just kind of run along truck to truck. You can see this is the same scenario this way, where you just get little bits of cover and it all feeds out into the big vehicle area. And then once we're here, we're basically just back into the spawn of the other side. There's not a whole lot to it. And as I said, these back areas, I don't even think I've ever even been in this particular room. It's just not used. You spawn here and you just kind of rush into the middle, and that's about as far as the conflict goes. You can't even really get back into those areas because it's all cut off from the zones. You see the red zones in the top left there. And then, as I said, it kind of mirrors the other side a little bit. I hate all of this stuff because you get like small little buildings that you would never go through this. Like I've never even been in some of these buildings. because you don't use them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't go to them. You'll find bits of cover if you need to, like, you know, maybe do something intensive, but I just, like, I don't think you're ever going to really use these spaces unless you're spawning in them. In this area, back little spot that you could go and hide, but you're not really... You're not going to go into them. Just like, giving you a straight up, you're not going to be using these spaces. All the conflict happens where all the cars are. Small little building again. And then you get out into the middle. And this is where the fun begins, because it's like... Literally just, you throw grenades, and it explodes. Like, you spawn there, you spawn on the other side, you just rush in here, you chuck grenades, cars go boom. There's so many, like, tight angles, and you can use all the different car destructions as, like, cover. But, yeah, I do not like this level. This one's weird. You could think of it as almost like the teams are carving out the map, but it's not like there's really destructive elements. It's just explosive fire hazards. This is the central car that's destroyed, so you get like a little bit of cover here, but you're not really protected by anything. And there's just lots of areas for you to kind of climb up on different vehicles if you want to get different vantage points. It's really kind of like claustrophobic and almost unsettling. But yeah, as you can tell, we're already back on the side of the map that we started at. See, there's the other spawn. So you just basically rush down the middle, chucking grenades, hoping you don't die, and then you just kind of sometimes go through that side tunnel with lots of little entrance points along the way. And that's all there is to this level. It's nothing really too crazily exciting, that's for sure. This is Taraq. This map is incredibly open, with only bits of building cover in select areas. So the conflict happens typically in the circular lane here, with people crossing over down the middle and then sometimes running around the edges of the map. But yeah, this one is basically just open. It's a sniper fest. You get lots of miscellaneous bits of broken cover that you can use. It's just kind of a completely destroyed town. There's the central area of the map, long lanes and lines of sight, and lots of little spots that you can kind of like hide in, if that makes sense. Lots of nooks and crannies, lots of little corners, but for the most part you're gonna be catching people just in the open. This is an objective here, and yeah, this one is gonna be less room to room and more like, you know, trying to come across someone in an area and maybe using the odd building to your advantage, like this building here, because this one does give you, again, a line of sight of the whole map from an elevated position. You can literally see everything. But you're also very much out in the open, because you're out here without a whole lot of cover, but you do get balcony kind of little spots that you can use to your advantage. And then there's this area here. And like I said, open spaces, tiny little occasional rooms, little walls. The teddy bears from the older Call of Duty Modern Warfare games are kind of here, which is interesting. They seem to only be on this map that I've noticed. And there's a ton of them, which is strange. But yeah, then we've got this little building here. I'll give you an overlay of the maps. We kind of went around this way. Tiny little space, lots of open areas you can get shot from or shoot people from. So you're kind of wanting to basically either post up as a sniper somewhere, like maybe up over here or up over there, and use vantage points just to kind of take people out, or kind of run about and hope you don't get picked off from all the people that are sniping or using long distance like assault rifles and stuff, because that's not going to make your day any easier having to deal with that. Then there are these little side pockets again where you can find yourself kind of like spawning at or moving through, and there's just, yeah, they're interesting, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's a very messy kind of level where you're kind of just basically just running about hoping for the best, long lines of sight everywhere. Small buildings, small little hidey holes. But I'm sure you could find a spot that's helpful. Here's the graveyard. I find that the far corners of the map don't tend to get too much usage unless people are really moving to flank around and stuff like that. Little climb up area. And then this area here too. This one is just open. So this is like, you know, we spawned over here. This part is just like a completely blanket open area with little bits of cover in corners that you might be able to hide behind. Not a lot of great spaces for you to enjoy, like just open little playground spot there with all concrete, which is delightful for a playground area. And you just see this kind of connection over here. And it's just, this is an elevated spot you can use. You can view this whole area of the map, but it's not anywhere that you can, like, enter into, if that makes sense. Like, it's, yeah. You get this little doorway here, and this is just like a little kind of cover spot. You can climb up here and get another little balcony, but it's not like you can actually, use this spot as any proper cover. It's mostly just an area where you could be like, I could shoot from here, shoot down there. Let's enter the center of the map where you get the most cover and the most little room dynamics that you can play with. So you can rush through there, you can rush down the little middle. Sometimes they throw an objective down here. This area is segmented through tight little rooms that kind of just like connect each other, and then there's like another little tight room here. And this will lead you to a second level staircase. Again, this is the central connection room. And then you get like just a little bathroom or a little tight spot here. You might be able to shoot at some people spawning that are coming in. Over here, same thing, but yeah, little teddy bears everywhere on this map. It's really cute. And that's all this really is. It's like, yeah, this little alleyway you can hide in. It's, yeah, small rooms here. Lots of bathrooms though within these destroyed little spots. So lots of rubble and clutter. Oh, this courtyard's actually kind of a nice spot. I think there's usually an objective in this one. You can do the hang off of the walls and kind of see people, so you might find that helpful. But yeah, this is just tight corners where you hide inside this area here, just this little courtyard spot. And you like jump along the posts, but you're going to be vulnerable and get shot at basically, right? So not the best of ways to get around. And then, yeah, just another little rubble place that you can use to either, shoot at people spawning in, or maybe get like a slight elevation up here, but open window. You're basically as vulnerable as the vulnerable targets kind of out in the open. It is a very neat level in that regard, and that really is the end of it. Just long open spots of desert. This is the Zarqwa Hydroelectric map. This seems to be very heavily weighted, at least now, in terms of players playing on this map. It seems to come up very, very often for some reason. So you spawn here, or you spawn over on this side, and it is a kind of a mess of weird different areas that you can go into, because you can literally swim on this map. So it's going to be hard to fully show this one off, and I'm going to try my best to give you an idea of the different areas, but like, it's quite something because of the swimming element of it. So we got a spawn here, and you can kind of move around on the right side or the left side. And then there's like water surrounding the outer area and water in the middle. So let's try to make this work. You can go into this building here, which is just a small little area that is kind of cut off. And if you go through here, you can jump out into the water or move forward into one of the central areas of conflict. There's water that way too. Or you could run down or up these stairs. Kind of crazy, right? So, yeah, that's literally it. Or you could have come this way, but, you gotta return to the combat area. So it's kind of not really a feasible spot that you can use, right? So, not the best of scenarios. So let's rush back to where we were, which is kind of funny that we have to do this. Yeah, that's just like, it's wild. So let's just show off this building here. So you would spawn, you run straight, and you'd get into this building. This one has kind of 2 levels, and then you dip down to the water. This was the area we were showing off on the other side where I'm like the water connects here. So that's a central little puddle area. You can rush out there, and there's lots of cover with the different rocks and everything that you can use. You can also climb up to the 2nd level, where you will get a nice little vantage point of people running down here, that central area down the middle. That's a lane that a lot of people use to get around. It's also a very deadly spot. And you can see the different vantage points. People typically don't use the water on this side. The water in the middle of the map seems to be like the thing that people like using for travel and transport. And you can climb up that way if you want to get up there too. And this is just like breaking into the middle. So nothing too particularly fancy here. Just a little window you can shoot from. It's actually a little not bad vantage point. And a little corner you can hide in if you want to sit back a bit with a sniper or something. Go nuts. Right? Cool. So now we're coming back around. Try not to die in the little area. It's weird that that's like clearly a part of the map, but then it's like cut off and it's too enticing not to go that way. And then coming over here, like I mentioned earlier, that's where the water is. That's where we were 2 seconds ago. This building sees a lot of conflict, so you can have people kind of like use that as like a little tiny bit of cover. It's not like the best of spots. People shooting down from this like the second level here, but it's pretty open. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty open spot interior wise. This is a good vantage point. That's that central middle lane. I like using this spot to shoot down at people coming from there, coming from over there, coming from down there. Not a bad little area. And then this is another open spot where you get a little bit more of a vantage point here. You can snipe down that lane, even catch people better, but you're more vulnerable. Or you can rush over here, shoot at people in the water, shoot at people on that ledge. Or you can kind of crouch out here and people go to the objective and you just shoot them from up above. And typically they strangely don't notice you. So that is intriguing. But yeah, you can literally get up on here and you can see people and then swim over and use the, you know, the ladder to kind of get in. It's just like this area, like you never see people swimming over here. Like I don't even think I've swam over there because there's not really, I don't think much of a point in doing it. Here you can climb up to the top if you prefer to go this way from down there. And then you just got this kind of open spot that you can enjoy, this middle lane that I was talking about. One of the water areas, so that on the other side of that is those two water connectors. You can swim here, or you can actually keep swimming underneath. And there's another water connection right here that you can climb out of. And then over here, no, not this one, right down there, there's another little water spot. We'll get to the side in a sec. Sometimes this is used as quick cover to kind of shoot at people that are shooting down at you. You could use this as a waterway if you want to swim around, but people don't do that. Swimming's weird in Modern Warfare, but yeah, you can also go out and swim there. You can swim there, swim right from the spawn area. This is more of like a connector route, this little spot here. And then we're back on, like, well, basically on this spawn over here. This one, they slap an objective down the middle, and it's just like some tight little rock formations that you could use as cover. I love, not this way, but the door when it opens up this way. Just sitting here in this corner, because they'll put the objective here and you can hold on to it and people don't notice you and they just run by and you can shoot them, with that door kind of being a nice little closed off spot. And then it's just like really tight little rock formations. And then there's a back area here. People don't really go through it, and like I said, you can jump into the water really at any point along the rock side here and use this as a great flanking route because people are not paying attention. Lots of little water entrance areas. And then over there, that's another spot for water that you can enter from. Another spot for water entrance here. It's like there's lots of little spots that you can basically swim through in the entirety of the map. Now this one, you can actually climb up here and get a good little vantage point of people running that way or coming from the rocks. Or maybe you can watch people that are over there. I don't see the scaffolding used, and it's actually a pretty good little area. Even just camping there in that corner and watching people walk in is really good too. And then you've got this kind of room here. Similarly, you can climb along the rocks on the top too, to a degree. For whatever reason, you can't really use this bridge piece, which is weird because you can literally like swim underneath it or run along the outside of it. There's that middle area again that we were talking about. Little bits of cover here or there. More water entrance areas. Running along here, you know, not really cover points, but little spots that you can use, rocky outcroppings. And then from there, we're basically right back to the spawn where we started, and now I want to show off the side rocky area because we're back at that spawn point initially. Literally, you can run along the outside of the map using this as a great flanking lane, and no one will notice you because nobody's looking over here. And then there's the water entrance area. See, that's the thing, because there are like so many water areas, and you see all of the water combat literally just happens in the one little central pool. But there really is like a lot of little kind of watery ways that you can, you know, use to get to different places. It's this whole underground water system, and it's not very utilized very much because, again, combat's very awkward in the water. At least I'm not like personally huge on it in Call of Duty, but it is a change up for this level. It is something a little different. And that concludes our tour. Again, you know, if you did find this helpful, I went over everything at launch that is available for regular maps. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well.
Domination. We're taking Alpha. Alpha secure. We're losing Bravo.
Syntax incoming!
Lost Bravo. Secure Bravo. Bravo. We control Bravo.
Hostiles in the AO.
Securing Charlie.